Correct. Okay, excellent. So do you all have your rules of procedure in front of you?
Yes.
Yes, sir. So, yep. Do you want to do that?
Is that motion done? No discussion about Ted's move.
Let's see.
It's not my point. Here's attorney sitting in the room. Let's see.
Okay, motion to move number 6 back down to the bottom of the agenda. Okay, roll call vote. Thank you.
Flanagan, aye.
Thank you for your patience, all. Hello, sir. That's okay. It is 7:07. Can we note that we have a full board? Thank you. Up before us is a request for rehearing Article A of your agenda, 2265014 NR 24-appeal, request by the applicant for an appeal of an administrative decision regarding a violation of Article 19, commercial keeping of farm animals at 17 Coachman Drive, map 226, lot 50-4, in the Neighborhood Regional Zoning District. By Brian Barrington, Coolidge Law Firm, 98 High Street, Somersworth, New Hampshire. So the only thing that the board needs to decide under a request for rehearing is, was there anything raised in the application request for the rehearing that illustrated that the board misconstrued information, misconstrued the request at the time, or that any of the factual material or behavior of the board was inappropriate or wrong?
Okay, I'm happy to start the discussion. I have reviewed the letter that we received, and based on my review of that and my presence at the prior hearing, I don't find that there is anything raised in the letter requesting a rehearing that was not addressed in the hearing itself.
Okay.
So no new evidence was contained in the letter.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Yes, sir.
I wasn't here for the original application. I was here for the entire second visit. And, you know, I'm not a lawyer, but as somebody who can understand both sides, I feel like we didn't do anything wrong. So I concur that, you know, I know what it's like to lose one of these cases. And, you know, taking a second bite at the apple and all, I just feel like we did what we were supposed to do.
Okay, good to hear from you. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
Just to add on to what Parker just said is, the chairwoman had mentioned our protocols. We followed our standard evaluation protocol in this hearing, and followed our standard policies and procedures, and weighed, I believe, properly the evidence and the narratives from the applicant's counsel and applicant's expert who was providing testimony by Microsoft Teams.
Okay. So based on that, would anyone like to make a motion in reference to this case?
I have a motion.
Okay, please proceed.
So based on the discussion here, I move that we deny the request for a rehearing. There was no new evidence presented in the request for rehearing that was not heard and weighed properly by this board. There were no errors as far as procedure and policy by this board, and therefore the decision that this board made in the original hearing should stand. But I would like to add some additional findings just to make sure that everything is abundantly clear to the applicant going forward. And that is that the evidence before the board supported that a goat is more similar to a sheep and therefore a farm animal than a rabbit. And the town ordinance Article 19 that was being discussed defines agricultural use, keeping of farm animals. It does not specifically use the term goat, but when considering the two classifications of animals presented, chickens, ducks, rabbits, and other animals, and horses, cows, pig, and sheep, and similar animals, we found as a board that the code enforcement officer was reasonable in his conclusion that a goat is similar to the second category of animals, those being what we would term farm animals, and that the 40,000 square foot restriction was appropriately and properly applied. The conclusion was also supported by the interpretation of Article 18 and the definition of farm animals, which, as I included in my motion and in the discussion portion, categorizes cattle, calves, horses, mules, swine, sheep, goats, poultry, or other similar birds and animals. And also RSA 2134A also includes those in their definition of farm animals. So the evidence presented to this board was clear that the goats are not house pets and they are more consistent with a farm animal. The applicant's expert testified that the dwarf goats that she bred and are the same goats that the applicant now has were in fact similar to a sheep, as opposed to those other animals, because biologically they are ruminants. So therefore, even from a biological perspective, they are more similar to the farm animals and the definitions of farm animals that we're operating with. So finally, what this board has said in this case, just to be clear, we have never as a board held that the goats specifically had to be disposed of. But what we're dealing with here, and what was clear from code enforcement's original letter, is that there are too many animals under the ordinance, and therefore there needs to be a reduction in animals. The reduction in animals is up to the applicant and not up to this board. So in conclusion, just to reiterate, I move that the request for rehearing be denied based on those factors.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Okay. We have a first and a second for the denial of a rehearing. Could I have a roll call vote beginning with Alexandra Samaco, please?
Samaco, aye.
Flanagan, aye.
Fairfield, aye.
Kiddo, aye.
Then Hardikoff, aye. Thank you. Next up before the board is a new application, number 23457 and 57-2, V-25 variance for owners Edward Lemos, 1995 Trust, Marla and Marl Lemos. Request by the applicant for a variance request from 6.2.6, a reduction in the perimeter buffer from 100 feet to 85 feet due to an existing well's location within the 100 perimeter buffer area on a 49.6 acre lot, map 234, lot 57 and 57.2, in the Village Zoning District at 138 Oak Hill Road by Scott Cole Beals Associates, PLLC, 70 Portsmouth Ave, Stratham. Before I have you present, do we have on file that the representative can represent this individual?
Yes, we do have that on file.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name again was Scott Cole from Beals Associates, and then here with me is also the developer, Representative Shauna Samus from Chimberg Builders. So we're here, I believe, for a simple request for a variance for a 100-foot buffer reduction. Now, to give you some background, we have an application currently in front of the planning board for an open space subdivision on 49 acres located on Oak Hill Road, which is displayed on the plan to my right. We believe, as well as I believe the planning board, think that this is the highest and best use of the property as it End result is the same amount of lots that are smaller and leaves a very efficient open space component to the project. Now, as the board understands, part of the requirements of an open space subdivision is you need a 100-foot perimeter buffer. That is supposed to be green space and not involved with any building. We have a certain situation on this parcel, whereas the existing homestead, which is a nice house and to remain.
Can you point to that on the
Yeah.
map,
No,
just
I
for the
should
sake
show
of
you.
time, please, sir?
This is the entire subdivision
Mhm.
here. Lighter brown is the existing homestead.
Okay.
Driveway that's actually located over the proposed roadway. Zoom that in for everyone. It's larger, smaller scale, I should say. We have the existing structure here. Existing well is here. In order to do the normal 100-foot buffer, as brought to our attention by the planning board, the well cannot be it would not be able to be within the parcel's boundaries. So the only other way to do it would be to straight line it, and there is a regulation that says the wellhead cannot be within the open space or the perimeter buffer. So what we are asking for is relief to the 100 feet to have the existing conditions remain. We're not changing anything. The buffer that's there will still exist tomorrow. There is an existing vegetated line shown on the plan. That is all remaining exactly the same. What the variance would allow is to reduce the 15 feet would be to now have the wellhead on the parent parcel property for the existing homestead, which would meet the regulations for the planning board. And as well as you can see the building setback. If we had the normal proposed lot line that would be 100 feet, the building setback itself would not, or the building would not adhere to the proposed setbacks. By doing this, it does adhere to the side setback for the existing structure. So we're kind of killing two things with one stone. So again, we believe it's straightforward. We do need, a request before yourselves to leave things as the way they are, and I'll answer any questions.
If I could have you please read the 5 criteria in reference to this application.
So 5 variance criteria. Number 1, granting the variance will not be contrary to the public interest. The requested relief is in regard to an existing wellhead. This relief will have no impact on abutters or roads. The existing visual screen is to remain undisturbed, so it will remain the same. Number 2, granting the variance will be consistent with the spirit of the ordinance. The intention of the ordinance is to protect abutters and exterior roads from changes to visual screening. The ordinance requires a 100-foot perimeter buffer for all conservation subdivisions. The 15 feet relief for the existing dwelling head, inconsistent with the ordinance's spirit. No view shed will be impacted. Number 3, granting the variance would do substantial justice. The existing dwelling was built in 2006. The request is to allow the well and dwelling to remain as they currently exist. If relief were to be denied, development of these 50 acres with 40.6 acres of conserved in perpetuity would be prohibited. What that means is if we didn't get permission tonight, we'd be going back to a conventional subdivision and the open space would go away. Number 4, granting the variance will not result in diminution of surrounding property values. Granting the variance would not result in diminution of surrounding property values as this home and utilities are currently existing. (5)(a), literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship. The following special conditions of the property distinguish it from other properties in the area. The odd shape of this parcel makes a conventional subdivision cost prohibitive. A conservation subdivision is a far superior use of the acreage. The existing structures are being integrated into the subdivision. If relief were to be denied, it would make the subdivision of these 50+ acres impermissible. Number 2, no fair and substantial relationship exists between general purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property because The intention of regulation is to protect the butters and existing exterior roads from changes in view sheds resulting from new conservation subdivisions. We are seeking relief 15 feet only for an existing structure. There will be no visual impacts whatsoever. And then number 3, the proposed use is a reasonable one because the structure is existing. This relief allows for 40.6 acres of land to be conserved in perpetuity. The requested relief will have no impact on the butters whatsoever. 5B, if the criteria in subparagraph 5A above are not established, explain how, owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, the property cannot be reasonably used in strict conformance with the ordinance, and a variance is therefore necessary to enable a reasonable use of it. There are existing parcels comprised of 50-plus acres. The owner is seeking to subdivide. Due to the odd shape of the parcel, a conventional subdivision would be cost prohibitive. A conservation subdivision is a far better use of the land without the requested relief to the perimeter buffer, 15 feet. An open space subdivision will be prohibited. The spirit of the ordinance is upheld. And that's it.
Questions?
I've got questions, Scott. I'm looking at your page you have up there. Why don't you, if you would clarify a couple things for me. All right, so I can't reference your lines because you have no dimensions on them. So I'm going to see if we can point to the same line here. Top right of your page, you have a vertical line. That's, thank you. Yep, that's the bold line. That is a
Proposed property line to a new lot, conservation lot.
okay. So now we move to the left of that line, or you move to the right, you've got your 100-foot setback.
Correct.
You move to the left, you've reduced to 85 feet.
Correct.
The existing house is the one above the wellhead.
This one here, yep.
Yeah. Okay. So in order to make that well on that property, you need, I see why you need the relief. Why are you doing the 85 feet the entire length of that line and not going around the wellhead?
Well, we have to go as far as the well,
Yeah.
and as far as this house corner. No, another variance would be needed.
So I'm not,
This setback, the rear property line setback for this house would not be conforming if we had 100 feet.
oh, I get you now. Okay.
So one line takes care of two situations.
Yeah, so the well is a small, it's half the equation.
That was the beginning of the 2 variants.
Yeah, so if you don't get that 85 feet, you're back to a conventional subdivision,
That's correct.
punching in a whole road, doing a whole 9 yards.
Right.
So on the other side of that, moving that way, you have no lot lines there, but you're back to 100 feet. So it's just for that one lot.
Yep. Yep, that's the only lot that's affected and requested for is this one, just because of the, as I said, because of the existing condition and location of what's already there today.
Right. So there's no other, you have no other issues with that well being so close to the lot line? You don't have to, your 75-foot radius is inside the conservation area, so you're
Yep,
fine.
it's already existing.
Yeah. All right, I'm done.
Any other questions? Okay, at this time, I would like to open up the meeting for any comments that are for or against this application. Anybody online at all? Anyone in-house that needs to speak? Okay. I'm going to close public comment in reference to this application. Do I have a motion from anyone on the ZBA?
Yes.
I love that look. Oh, my microphone.
Okay. I move that we approve the variance for case number 234-57. I'm trying to read handwriting and it's not good. Okay. Case number 234-57 and 57-2-V-25-VAR. The applicant has demonstrated that special conditions exist such that literal enforcement of the ordinance will result in unnecessary hardship to the applicant as defined under applicable law because, this is more than just the applicant. This is a benefit to have a conservation subdivision where there is a large portion of this parcel that is going to be conserved in perpetuity. That benefits not only the landowner, but the community. So to deny this would be to force them into a traditional subdivision where this land is not going to be conserved. So that is something that we need to take into consideration. Granting the variance would be consistent with the spirit of the ordinance and not contrary to the public interest because, as I just said, the public has an interest in having property in town being conserved. Granting this variance will not result in diminution of surrounding property values because this is an existing well. We're not talking about doing any work related to this variance to the property, but allowing it to remain as it exists today. Granting the variance would do substantial justice because it allows for conservation of this land and no need to modify the existing infrastructure of this property. So on those basis, I move that we grant this variance. Specific to the way that they have it laid out here with that length of of it being allowed to be 85 feet as brought up by Paul and explained by the applicant's representative. So
Second.
Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Samaco, aye.
Flanagan, aye.
Fairfield, aye.
Thibodeau, aye.
And Hardikoff, aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Seeing as we have checked the box on item number 5 on your agenda, we are moving on to an open working session for the rules of procedure update. At our last meeting, there was a request to consider updating the rules of procedure to include an emergency action plan in those rules should we have an emergent cancellation of a meeting. And I'll just tell you, as long as I own pets in my nuclear family and extended family, we could have this continue to happen. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, I did write to Vanessa and asked her to consider just a step-by-step process. There's some spelling changes in these proposals. There's some wording changes that don't necessarily change the actual rules of procedure. I think it's, I found a few of them to be just typical of how someone might choose to write. But in reference to that emergency cancellation, my suggestion, and we'll bring them up and we can make changes as we go, and then we have to hold another session on those changes. This is the 5th time I think we've changed rules of procedure. Maybe it's the 4th time, and I'd like to not do it again. The prior zoning board did not change their rules of procedure for 25 years. So while I'm happy to make changes when they're needed, and I do think having an emergent plan listed in there is important, I do not wish to review these more than annually ever again. So I'm hoping that we can do a working session on that. I had proposed that we simply use language with a step-by-step process. So should an emergent situation occur and a meeting need to be unexpectedly canceled, the following steps would take place. The posting of the cancellation notice, the re-alerting abutters at no cost to the applicant, but absorbed within the land use department. Those get sent certified mail.
Yes.
Yep, so re-alerting with the posting at, I think we do the post office. Who drops those off, by the way?
We do.
You drive to the post office every time? That's
Not necessarily.
fascinating to me. I've
Yes,
never seen a notice, so,
the notice is on that bulletin
yeah,
board.
that's
Um,
fascinating to me.
Yeah, so it's there, the library,
Yeah, so
and out front.
so that would be re-noticing the meeting would occur at those same locations. Just, I think we should just do like the 4 or 5 step process so that people understand, should an emergent situation occur, here's how we'll respond. Thoughts? I think that's what we had asked for.
Can I get an example of what an emergent situation would be? Is it like a blizzard type of emergent, or is this like,
That's, one of us could have a car accident on the way here and you don't have a quorum.
If we don't have a quorum in
forbid.
person due to whatever reason, or we don't have power or something like that.
Yeah.
What's the procedure?
Yeah, we've once had our Wi-Fi company scheduled an update on whatever was happening, and we thought our meeting was going to get canceled because of that, and they pulled it out at the last minute for us. So I would just say emergent situation, unexpected emergent situation. But yeah, lack of a quorum could be it. Technical difficulty could be it.
I think that's a good idea. I do think that there should be a line in there that tells us, because if someone has a car accident on their way here, we may not know about it.
Sure,
So we just need to know how long, trying to figure out how long we should wait,
sure.
so there should be some sort of timeline if, if the court.
I think 15 minutes.
I think 15 minutes.
Is that, everyone else agree that that's what we'll utilize as the timeline, 15 minutes? Okay. Paul, you comfortable with
Yeah,
that?
reasonable. I think
Okay.
that's reasonable.
So I would say any meeting where a quorum is not present, starting at the beginning of the meeting for 15 minutes would be an automatic emergent cancellation. I think that that's appropriate too.
Would there be anything in there about like specific emails to the board members as well? Like,
Well, you'd technically already be seated here, so you'd technically already know.
like tonight, except
Right. Yeah.
Or like I've had planning board members too that just I didn't know that they were not showing up.
right.
And then so I did an email afterwards saying due to a quorum issue or what have you, that we'll have our meeting scheduled next. I felt like since I had spoken to both.
That's what
Parker
it
and
is.
Tuesday afterwards.
That you just said it.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and that the cases that were to be heard would be moved to the top of the agenda for the next regularly scheduled meeting. That's what we need.
Yeah.
So they're not pushed down for 4 other cases and sitting here staring at us.
Wouldn't that automatically have happened anyway?
Yeah,
I know
but we
when my
didn't
meetings
have
were
it
pushed up.
addressed. So
Yes,
like,
but also the rules of procedure are also not just for us, it's for members of the public
Okay,
or
yeah.
other engineers that may say, well, what happens if a meeting gets canceled? Where am I?
Sure.
How's that gonna affect
Yeah.
me?
So I would say that was very specifically what we had asked for. Anything else you think needs to be included? Okay. So based on that, yeah.
The other items that I had just added to it, some question of how public meetings should be run. There's from their Office of Planning and Development book, added that in there.
Yeah, I don't agree with this, and I'll tell you why,
Okay.
Vanessa. Under the fourth line on number 2, it talks about alerting other departments, planning board, other parties deemed by this board to have special interest. Unless we're meeting and reviewing it, we can't determine that someone has special interest. So couldn't figure out why this is in here. I think that it came from a section of the state RSA. I do not think it gets applied this way.
Could we change board to Office of Planning? Wouldn't it really identify?
It's not, though, that's the problem. This ZBA would determine if there is someone who has special interest and should be notified. It is not the land use office that determines that. Right, so if we're going to do this, then I would change the verbiage to read, should at any time during a normally scheduled meeting, the zoning board of adjustment determine that there are other areas of land use or town municipal government that have special interest, they may choose to table a case and alert those with special interest in the case. That's the only thing I can think of, because you can't do it ahead, like, we're not allowed to have that discussion outside of that meeting under 91A. Is that okay? Okay. So that I found, I was like totally perplexed at that point. That was me going, huh? Which happens often, you guys, especially before coffee in the morning. Tell me when you're ready. I mean, if you see something and it's like glaringly obvious to you, jump in and say something, because you're seeing these people face to face as well, so. Okay, under page 10O, the board shall decide all cases within 90 days of the receipt. What did we change about this? Because notices of decision will be made. We have not met that 5-day. This last time, we did not meet that 5-day. We waited for our attorney to give opinion, and we went beyond the 5 days. So is the 5-day what is required?
Per RSA, yes.
Then I would say that we need to
I think,
that gives you, let's just, so I think it should say 5 business days, which would give us, tomorrow is Thursday, you're closed on Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, by Thursday. Okay, other than having to wait on a legal, we can meet that requirement.
and the legal was not here last time. There was also holidays in there as well.
Okay, so you don't feel like we stepped outside the 5 business days? Because I think we did. No?
From when you're signing it, yeah. I
Yeah,
would
we
say it
did.
was
We
over
stepped
5.
outside, yeah. So typically what happens with these notice of decisions is Vanessa will take a stab at it. I might say, no, we're also missing X, Y, and Z that occurred in the notice of decision and took place during the meeting. And we may have to change the notice of decision that's being signed. So that may take a day or 2 extra, but now that we know that it is within 5 business days, we're just operationally going to have to change how we approach that. That being said, just be
I could
mindful.
always sign them as well.
I absolutely not prefer anyone ever put my signature on anything.
No,
so
I mean, as
what
far
I-
as land use
no.
stuff.
I've been reading them, and there
I
have
agree.
been many times
I don't want
that
to
I
sign them,
think,
but
okay.
I don't
So
want
my
to sign them.
answer would be that if I am not available and we don't have it scheduled within the 5 business days, please reach out to the vice chair.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to include that, since you're making such a detailed operational response here. Just be mindful, if it's not me, it's Paul, and quite frankly, if it's not Paul, I think move on to another ZBA member so that we're meeting that 5-day statutory requirement.
Hey, Tracy, who issues the notice of decision?
I'm sorry, who's given the
Issues-
notice?
Yeah, who issues the
So
notice
they're
of
typed up
decision?
in land use, and I issue the notice of decision.
Okay, so
My
on the
signature's
second
on it.
line, Vanessa, should that notice of decision, is that the notice of decision, is that actually a document? So
It
that-
is an actual
So
document.
that D would be capitalized in that second line and O? Notice of decision.
But it says notice of the decision, or do you
Oh.
want it to read notice, like, of decision? Like, the formal document is notice of decision versus notice of the decision, which is the decision of board. I'm fine either way. Sounds better. Notice. Notice of decision. There you go. That sounds better.
And is a business day for the town hall? I mean, is it the same as a business day for me? 'Cause my business days are Monday to Friday, so I want to say 5 business days.
No, so if you're thinking it should 5 minutes. Because we're not adopting the.
Any meetings don't have to be recorded either.
So leave it off. So I think,
It's on.
I think Parker's right.
Business
And I
days.
used to-
So
Because
5
Friday
minutes.
is a
Totally
business
legal. It's
day.
Monday through Friday is what the state looks at it.
Right.
Yeah.
But we're closed Friday.
You can,
So,
you
yeah.
can put your own
But we
days
could-
in there, but legally, if it was ever challenged,
Yeah, so
It
why wouldn't we
wouldn't
just
have
put the adjective municipal?
I think we should.
No, that's a great idea, Parker.
within
No.
5,
5 municipal business
5
days.
municipal business days. I think that's a really good, yeah. And then tell me when you're done with that.
I really wish I had bigger font.
Is it giving you a headache?
Oh, I have migraine. I've been in the hospital off and
Oh,
on for.
I'm sorry.
It's not even a freaking migraine. Don't get me started.
Okay, I'm sorry.
They think I have viral meningitis, but nobody will give me a spinal tap to prove my doctor's point.
Well, can you go sit over?
It's not contagious unless you're somehow going to get my spinal fluid into your
Just
spinal
saying.
fluid.
Oh, my good Lord. Okay. So this last two, the notice shall also be given to the planning board, the board of selectmen. We have a select board. We don't have the board of selectmen, town clerk, property tax assessor, and other town officials. I'm curious because I'm 6 years into being on the select board. Nobody's ever given me this document of my notice of decision as a select board member. So it may be required that it is available to these people, but you're not distributing them, so let's not say we are.
yeah.
I'm like,
Anytime anybody can go online to find
Yeah.
once the notice is signed.
So I would
the
just
electrical
simply
posting
say-
as well in there.
Notice will also be made available to,
Or could be,
could be made available, yeah.
you know.
Or may be reviewed online at any time. I don't,
Vanessa, I have
Just-
a question when you get ready, because I see you type.
The notice may. You're okay with that? Or
Will
you
be
want-
made available.
Could.
Could?
Then you
think
don't have to
could?
do it. If they
we
want it, it
legally
could be made
required to?
available.
And I believe it was more required.
If you're going legal
Oh,
language,
right.
may is more appropriate,
Okay,
it's not binding.
Okay,
Sweet.
may,
learned something today.
okay.
I have a question about the third to last line. Unless the court determines, where is the court judging any of this? It doesn't reference a court anywhere except for the third to last line. So it just sort of seems to pop out of the semi non sequitur. Oh, thank you.
On
Now
appeal.
it makes
Okay.
more sense. Okay.
Okay, page 11. Voting, should a motion result in a tie vote? We haven't had that happen yet. But if it does, you have to then do a failed motion vote. I think we're aware that that's the case. But that's fine to leave it in there. I mean, reconsideration by the board, motions for rehearing, may reconsider, grant or deny an application for rehearing provided such reconsideration is within the appeal period of the original decision. Motions for, I'm not sure, do you need to quote these cases? City of Nashua? I mean, I understand that
I don't
legally,
think
so can you remove those? Because I don't, that, as part of our rules of procedure, it just muddies the reading of it. Motions for rehearing can only be received in the land use department during normal business hours, very
Normal
appropriate.
municipal business hours.
Yep, normal municipal business hours. I like that. Rehearing procedures. If the board grants a motion for rehearing, which we've not done yet, the new public hearing shall be held within 30 days. So that was interesting, because there are months where it's not 30 days and it's 31. So that's something to be very mindful of. Does it have to be 30 days?
I believe it does. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
It can be before the 30.
Okay. On page 13, didn't feel that the change that you listed was necessary. So it originally read, the chairperson will orally convey the decision. That happens when the motion is made. That happens when the motion is seconded. Then we vote, and then I say the motion carries. When we're talking about an application of appeal, orally convey the decision to the applicant. Like, I think that it should just read, the zoning board's motion will be orally conveyed. I don't think I have to repeat, your motion didn't, I don't get the point. Anyone? I just wrote unnecessary change because well, here's the other part to this. If you hand every applicant the rules of procedure, they have been noticed that they can request a rehearing because you gave them the rules of procedure. Am I wrong in saying that? You don't then have to go back and reiterate with every case. By the way, you can request a rehearing within 30 days. We double our workload just because people would do it.
Is the notice that you send out in English?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the statute.
So I felt this change was unnecessary is my point. That is on page 13 under H.
Should buy stock and paper company for every single ZP applicant.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And then again, I also felt like under section 3 of this was just a word scramble. And again, unnecessary change in my mind.
Before we move to that one, you were talking about one, number 2, again,
Yeah.
is that within 5 municipal
Business days, yep.
Gonna say, control H and Word.
I was gonna say, just replace them all.
Control
So-
H is a find replace option in Word.
So where everything in the document says 5 business days, you can move to 5 municipal business days. Well, there you have it.
I didn't know that. That's good to know.
I used to be the legal secretary, so in Washington DC.
Do you know how many times I Google, how do I tell my iPhone to stop texting, blah, 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 blah? Yeah, we all do it. Control H, it's replacement text.
I used to type 100.
So right there, type 5 business days, and then below it, type 5 municipal business days, and it will replace it in the whole document for you. And hopefully, we have just saved you. In writing very, very thick human resource manuals. Frisbee Hospital was always spelled wrong, so I'd have to yeah. It's a good replacement. Okay. Good call, Jackie. Okay, I am number 3 below that. Word scramble, unnecessary change. Tell me when you're on page 14.
Eureka.
Okay. Under K, again, word scramble, unnecessary change. It doesn't change the fundamentals of that. I would leave it alone. Remember that we've already had legal review what we have in front of us. Under,
Tracy,
yep, sir.
backing up to J,
Yep.
is that 90 days calendar or municipal? Very last fragment of the last sentence.
Unless waived by the applicant, the board shall hear and decide all cases within 90 days of receipt.
I think that's an RSA.
The RSA is
It's the
90
RSA. I'm
days.
trying to figure out what Arundel Maine's doing
Calendar.
if they don't have a seated zoning board, like the guy said.
I could
They have
put
no
calendar
rules.
days for clarity.
They're doing nothing if they don't have any applicants.
Well, apparently this guy's been trying to get in front of them with one of his
Just
cases.
go build it anyway. That's what I like. I like about, did I tell you what Denmark did?
Yes,
Town
yes.
of Denmark did a warrant to
Oh,
allow
you
me
kidding
to
me.
still be on their planning board. They literally did it just for
Yeah,
me.
that's just bizarre.
They're like, Parker, did you see the warrant? And I'm like, no, because I don't vote here anymore. And they said,
That's
well,
not
you're,
even, unless it's
you're
your legal
allowed, you're,
address, how is that even
as
legal?
long as you own a residence now in
Wow.
Denmark, Maine, you can sit on any board.
I don't think New Hampshire's the same way. That's
I'm like-
wild to
I'm
me.
like, dude, you think I'm driving 3 hours round trip once a month? You're out of your damn mind. Put it on.
I don't
put it
know,
on
if
Friday
taxes
night.
keep
Put it
going
on
the way
Friday
they
night,
are,
I'll
I
be
might
there.
live in
Put it on a
South
Saturday,
Berkshire,
I'm
you
there.
might find me
I'm not coming up on a
So,
Tuesday.
I'm
You're
just
out your
kidding.
mind.
I'm staying in Barrington. Under K, so I thought that was an unnecessary change. Under 2, down below, B2, timing may be impossible within 30 days. So this is about joint board meetings. So say planning board tonight wanted to hear Mr. Beal.
She means 7.
I mean, page 14, A234.
Yeah, Article 7,
Oh, sorry, Article 7,
B2.
page 14, B2.
Mhm. I sunk your battleship.
That was a good one. I loved that game when I was a kid. Based on how our meetings are scheduled, it could be impossible to meet this 30 days.
Was that an RSA?
Yeah.
It can't be impossible then.
So in the event that a petition by an applicant is for a joint hearing, this gentleman who saw us tonight is going before planning board. If he wanted that meeting to be ZBA and planning board, he can request that, correct?
Correct, but at a joint meeting, both decisions cannot be made. So presented information could be presented to both boards, but only one board would take action on, for example, for this.
And so here's the interesting part, though. When a joint meeting takes place, we do not preside over the meeting.
That's
The
right.
planning board
That's
does.
right.
So I can,
Do we have to have a quorum?
Yeah.
And they have to have a quorum.
yeah.
And only
Just to
one-
hear it.
And only one of
The planning
boards-
board
So my
chair
answer to
would
this
run the
is, I
meeting.
hope this never happens, because I had requested 6 months or 9 months ago that if we were ever going to do this, that we do this in a mock capacity with both boards and learn how to do it. Not that we ever just jump into it. So,
Well, I mean, also, hopefully nobody reads this far into, because it's
Well,
like,
but-
I would never have assumed that you could request both boards
Yeah.
to appear.
yeah, so quite interesting, but anyway, so in accordance with blah, 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 if the board approves a joint hearing, such hearing will be confirmed by the other board's chairperson. Who's the other board?
Planning.
If it's planning board or select board,
Yeah, but
I would assume planning, I mean,
It has to be planned.
Is there ever a time that it would be anything but planning?
No, I don't think.
Not in this town, but other towns that have historical districts or another land use board.
Thank you, Jamie. Never would have thought of that.
yeah, well, I'm going to hope it never happens for multiple reasons. We have not practiced it yet, and I would suspect we would need legal to walk both boards through this
Well,
so that we know exactly how we go about,
You sound
when
like
do
you're
we
no
make
fun.
motions, when and who's, you know what I'm saying? The logistics of this would be a nightmare without
you
practice.
sound like you're no fun at all.
I'm no fun. I do not like
This
doing
to me-
anything I
this to
am
me
not
sounds like
aware of.
Run on ice or being towed behind a mini scooter on ice or something. It's-
Oh, Parker, the things that.
Run on ice. That's a good one.
Oh, my God. So we have capitalization only on page 15, that's fine. Again, below that, we had already had language approved by our lawyer. I felt this was an unnecessary change. It was just rewording what was already there. And I think it's more, when you write a document, some people write in legalese, some people write in HR speak, some people, I mean, I think it's just reshuffling the same words. And it's actually everything on this page I said was unnecessary other than the capitalization. Anyone else?
Yeah, just a comment, I don't know who wrote the original one, but most of these are changing it.
Yeah,
Not that it matters,
yeah,
just that's what most of these are.
yeah. So, and again, our lawyer has already reviewed these. I don't think we need to pay her to just change unnecessary wordsmithing. Yeah, and somewhere we already have the board holds at least one public hearing before we formally adopt the rule changes.
Yeah.
We already have that, but we already have that.
We took it out of the last one because we said you didn't want to have it.
Then why are we putting it back in?
You had asked to put it back in, so I don't know.
I don't recall asking to have this put back in.
Okay.
Did anyone ask to have that put back?
No.
Well, you're not in a public meeting today, so we won't be adopting this. It will be changed by the message sent back out to you and at your next regularly scheduled meeting. Well, I'm trying to ask you, is it required that we put this out and ask for comment?
Yes, as in a public hearing, yes.
Okay,
As a public hearing.
okay.
Yes.
So it is
But
required.
you can, like, let's say tonight, you could have heard it, open a public comment, close public comment, and then adopt it.
It's not ready to go, though.
No,
Like,
no,
nobody in the
no.
public could review this yet, so that would be completely disingenuous in my
I'm
mind. So
Well,
let's bring it forward
1% of the
to,
public could.
let's
Yeah.
take the small changes, we'll send them to legal, make sure that she blesses them, get it back here for next month, and then we'll ask the public, does anyone have any comments, adopt, and then it's 60 days after that. How's that? Everybody groovy with that?
Yep.
Okay. The 60 days was required. It is required that they become effective 60 days after they are amended and adopted. It is required not to begin for 60 days. But what is not required is you can hold the public hearing and still vote to adopt at the same meeting. And then you wait your 60 days for it to be implemented, which means that any cases that were coming before you were not
I'm not
impacted
affected
by.
by that, yeah.
Unless we go for no quorum for 2 months. No.
Yeah,
So I want to make a comment while we're
Yes,
done
sir.
that. So we just spent, and I don't mind one bit, we just spent over half an hour doing this.
Yep.
Earlier, someone made a motion to move this review because we didn't have a quorum yet.
that was me.
I know it was, and I was the only one that voted no. So I want to just, I think we should be mindful of the public and the public that is paying people to sit there and listen to this crap we're doing. There's an attorney sitting there at probably $200 an hour. You'll know better how much that is than I do.
Don't ask me what my hourly rate is.
There's an engineer sitting there, and I know I've paid him $185 an hour.
Well, there you
And
have
we're
it.
going to review this?
Yeah, but I would have tabled it when Parker walked in and said, okay, I'm going to make a motion to table for the remainder.
I didn't know
until we
that
get to the
part.
end. So
I
that
didn't know
was what
that
was
part.
going to happen. I was just,
If there wasn't a quorum
Yeah.
discussing their first case,
Yeah.
then.
Well, but we could have done Scott's case.
yeah, even at that, he could have said,
He
no, I
could have
want a
said,
fully
no, I-
seated
Well,
board,
we
which
could
is
have
why
asked
I
him,
was,
though. We could have asked him, I'm just saying,
yeah.
To put these people through, are you kidding me? You're going to make me
Yeah.
pay my attorney to
I
listen to this?
was literally buying a 10-minute, I know where his
I
house
know,
is.
I
I was
said
buying a
you-
10-minute drive.
Whatever comment I made, you're.
Yes. Okay. Do you want to come out of this working session and we'll get a motion to adjourn?
Let's get a motion to eat. I am so hungry. I didn't have dinner tonight, so let's.
Okay.
Poor Paul. I make a motion, we adjourn and go eat.
At exactly 8 o'clock. How efficient you all are. Look at you go. And I would second that. Roll call vote, please. Okay.
Flanagan, aye.
Fairfield, aye.
Thibodeau, aye.
And Hardikoff, aye. There you have it all. You efficient people, you. Thank you.
None of that was.